Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Cyber Show. And tonight my guest is Mike Nelson. And this topic for this show is going to be for shows for a while now, is what role do I play? And not enough people ask themselves, what role do they play getting themselves in the situation they're in? They end up in a mess. They want to blame, but they don't say, what was my part in this? What did I play in that? Now, tonight's show is titled the role of a man. Oh, shoot. Sorry about that, folks. Is the role of a man in society and in the role that we play in life. And what role does a man play, or should he play, in his community and in his family and in his relationships? And Mike works as a counselor with Blue Seahorse, and him and I work together. So this is a favorite subject of Mike's that we talk a lot about because most of our clients are men. So Mike, I need to open this over to you and let us hear your feelings.
All right, thanks for having me tonight, Mike. I think the biggest thing I wanted to talk about is the role that we play as a men as it comes to domestic violence.
Okay.
Not in the fact that we commit domestic violence, but that standing on the outside. Of the domestic violence committed in this country, only 5% of the men are committing domestic violence, leaving the other 95% of men doing nothing and saying nothing.
Wow.
So, basically, by us doing nothing and saying nothing to these 5% of men, we're telling these men that it's okay, that we're fine with it, and we're all right with them setting the standards for men with women that they're abusing. So we're going to take a little bit of a look in this first session, the two-part show, I believe.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a little bit of a look this first session on why do we stand back? Why do we not get involved? And why that's bad.
Well, that's a real powerful question, and I guess we don't look at that enough. And I want to really hear what you've got to say about why you think men who raise as boys, grow up through the teens, don't stop other men from hurting women or becoming the batterers.
Well, we have to start by looking at it as the way we were brought up. Some of us were in homes that domestic violence was going on, and some men have made the choice in their mind that they just aren't going to do it. But because they saw it growing up, they think it's okay.
Right. There's
some men that look at it as it's not their problem. It's not me. It's not in my home. I don't need to worry about it. That's their issue.
Right.
And then there's just some men that just don't care. And there's also some that are scared.
Okay. Yep.
Probably a bigger majority of the men that are scared, that are afraid that if they get involved, that whatever's in their mind, it's stopping them from getting involved. And it's a big problem. Us working together, we see a lot of men come through that are men that have committed domestic violence. And they think it's okay because that's what they saw as growing up.
Right.
And growing up as men, we're taught that we have to be strong. We're taught we have to be tough. We're taught that, we don't show emotions. We don't, we have to be big, strong, and macho.
Right.
And that's not the case. We can be all that and still have compassion for each other and still care about what happens not only in our home but in our community. The portion of men that think it's not their issue is they believe that their home, they have their home set up, everything's fine in their home. They could give a care what happens next door. They They don't see it, and I don't understand how a man can stand by and allow a man to hit on a woman or physically abuse them, verbally abuse them, mentally abuse them, and see it every day, because most of the time it's not just a one-time thing.
Right. And there's a couple stories that I've had from the past of my doing the counseling, and one was, and I've read some of these stories too at the same time, is when a young boy watches his father beat his mother, and at some point, and it might be when he's 14, 15, or 16, when he thinks he's big enough that I can take care of my dad.
Yeah.
And he'll then tell his dad, stop hitting mom. And normally his dad will beat him up. You don't stop me from, you're my son, you do what I tell you,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. And right there, the boy is learning, if you try and stop this, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get beat up. You're going to get hurt. He doesn't agree with it. And whether he does it when he becomes older is another story, because not everybody does.
Right.
But in a lot of cases they do. The other thing, and it's a personal note, and I don't know what triggers people's minds to think and remember certain things or not do certain things in the future. But I remember when I was growing up, we had a single mom. There was 5 of us in the family, myself and 4 sisters. And I was a bully, because nobody in the house could take care of me, because I was the boy, I was the man. So I picked on my sisters all the time. And not nice.
Right.
And I still like to apologize to them all the time, but one day, they apparently, unbeknown to me, got together and decided they had enough. And I did something, and they were ready for me. And they beat the heck out of me. They used sticks and boards and fists and feet and kicks and shoes, and I was screaming. This was in the house for my mom, and my mom stood there and said, you got that coming. You deserve that. And for some reason, I didn't get mad at my sisters, but I have never, ever touched a woman since in anger.
Right.
Never. And why my mind went that way and not the other way, I don't know. Why some boys' minds go the other way and say, okay, now I'm going to be angrier. Now I'm going to deal with this in a more manly way, a more physical way. They scared the heck out of me.
Right.
I wasn't going to do it again. So that's a really tough question to ask, and it's even a harder question to answer on why some boys grow up, because you're right, we learn it. It's a learning thing, environmental learning. And for some reason, it's now becoming vogue, I guess, out there for people to talk about, well, their environment they grew up in generated this kind of child and this kind of adult. And, we got extreme adults.
Right.
Most of those are in prison, thank goodness. But there's still a whole lot of them out there that aren't. So you've got a really good topic here that we need to follow up on, keep following up on.
And it's like you said, some of them may have gotten, when they tried to stop Dad, they may have gotten, punished or beat up or whatever, and they could have carried it through carried it through to their adulthood.
Right.
And it is a product of environmental learning. I like to tell, my clients that you're a product of your past, but you're not a prisoner of it.
Right. Good point.
Meaning that, yes, you may have learned these traits and these characteristics, from Dad, because most of the men that hit their women have seen Dad do it.
Yep.
I'm not saying all of them. Some of there's many different reasons why, and we could sit here all day and talk about those.
Yeah.
But they don't have to be held. They don't have to hold themselves to that. In our batters intervention course, we teach them things to try to change their mindset, and to watch them learn these things that they've said they've never learned before. It's kind of refreshing, It kind of lifts your spirits up and it keeps you going. But as far as the men that just sit back and do nothing at all, I believe a lot of those men, they're just plain scared. You know, I don't know, whatever happened in their past that to stop them from getting involved. You know, maybe dad and mom lived next door to somebody that did that, and dad's like, I'm not getting into it. It's not my issue. You know, you leave it alone. There's many reasons why they don't get involved, and I think my focus is trying to call men out to be a real man, because sitting on the sideline when you see something wrong is not a man, in my opinion. A man will try to figure out how to fix it, because we're fixers.
Yep.
They'll try to, what's the situation? How can we make this right? And I believe if more men stepped up against these men that are hitting on their women, being verbally abusive, mentally abusive, that there would be a shift in how many men are actually doing this. 95% against 5% is a really big number.
Yeah, it is.
And it blew my mind when I learned that statistic that, why aren't more people standing up? Why aren't more people, saying, hey, that's not right? I'm the kind of guy, if I see it happening, I'm going to prevent it, short of, jumping on the guy or something. There's other ways to handle it without just jumping on the guy. You can call the police too. You can try to, stop the situation, diffuse it, whatever, send them on their way. That's me. That's who I am. And I'd like to, try to get more men to think like that. And for men that are supposed to be so macho and so big and so tough, there's more passive men out there than there is tough men, I believe.
Yeah. Look, from that point of view, I agree with you 100%. Because we all think we're tough, and we all think we're mean, and we all think we got ourselves together. Mm-hmm. But looking at it from that perspective, we are weak. Mm-hmm. We're not standing up to the manhood stuff that men should be. And I didn't look at it from that point of view, and that's a great point of view. That the men who are beating the women aren't men at all.
No, not at all.
And obviously you never see, or I shouldn't say you never see, I'm sure you do somewhere, but men don't beat up women who can beat them up.
No, not usually.
They only beat up women that they can beat up. Or they pick on small children, or their own children, or smaller men that they feel they can beat up. So does that mean these men are bullies who never grew up?
Quite possibly.
And that's why the big distinction that you and I both know is now finally coming to fruition, that men who lose control and hit women don't have anger management issues at all.
No.
They have power and control issues. I'm not hitting you because I'm mad at you. I'm hitting you because I'm not getting my way. Mm-hmm. And that's the big significant difference. And I agree, men need to be the ones to stand up. And there is a movement out there, and there is a video that we showed here, probably a year ago. We'll try and find it again, mm-hmm. about domestic violence in the United States, at least, and I'm sure worldwide, will never stop unless men stop it.
Yep.
It's never going to happen. And all the domestic violence coalitions in the United States and around the world are run by women. Mm-hmm. Well, most men think women are just complainers, and they're saying they got these little groups together to protect women, right. And from the men who beat them, but they're run by women, so who cares?
And it's not nothing against women. It's not a woman issue. It's a man issue.
Yeah, it is.
It really is, because almost all the violence men see are from men. Whether you see a man hitting his wife or his girlfriend, fiance, whatever, or he's trying to beat you up. Most of the violence, it's a man issue. And I think the women are taking it from their point of view, and all the coalitions, they're very good. They're good at what they do. They're good at trying to help the women and getting them situated and stuff. But they're never gonna get to that man.
No.
It takes a man to get to a man.
Yeah.
And it's a messed up way, but that's how we're built. That's how we think.
Yeah.
And that's how, that's how we are. So that's why it is up to us men, us 95%. We have to stand up. We can't let this go anymore. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I never realized how big the issue was till I started counseling with you. And it grows every week. Get new clients every week from it. And so it's really lit a fire under my tail to start calling men out, And I'm not trying to be rude or mean or anything to any man, but it's time we stood up.
Yeah.
It's time we get off our butt, and it's time we act like a real man. A real man can be strong and all this and still be compassionate and caring and care about what happens in his community. Men are the leaders of the community. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And how are we going to lead our community and say we have a strong community, but we're too afraid to get up and stand up against, the guy next door beating his wife, how's that going to happen?
Well, like you said, traditionally men have always been leaders of the community,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fine. But today, the equalization is coming in. Women are becoming leaders in the
Mm-hmm.
community. Is fine, and I know because we deal with men all the time.
Yes.
They don't deal with that political leaders as women.
No.
They don't deal with them at all.
Mm-mm.
And even though they don't understand what the heck the women are saying, they're not politically savvy. They're not worldly. They don't watch the TV a lot to figure out what's happening in Iraq and Iran
Right.
and Australia and Turkey. They don't watch that. They don't know what's going on in the news. The politicians do. And these women are becoming leaders in the community, and men are intimidated by that. And they shouldn't be. They should be respectful of that. And I know it's really easy for us to sit here and say this,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm old enough now, and I really like the contrast between us because I'm a lot older than you,
Right.
and you've got the insight that we try to get our clients to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a role that, like we said in the very beginning of this series, this segment, there's a role we all play in life.
Mm-hmm.
Women are built and designed by the Creator to provide a certain role
Mm-hmm.
as part of their womanhood. Now they can provide other roles too, but they have a certain function that we can't do.
Right.
And that's all there is to it. We have a function they can't do, and that's by design. But that's where it stops.
Right.
That's where it should stop. From that little self-functioning only, those two little functions that we can only do, after that we're equal.
Right.
And that's not recognized by men.
No, it's not. And it's a really hard concept for men to understand.
Yep.
It's taken me some time to grab a hold of it. I'm still a young man, I've not seen and done all the things that you have. But I grew up, as, you don't cry, if I got a spanking, I'm going to give you another one if you don't quit crying,
Yeah.
You're a man, you don't cry, we don't do all that. And then I sit back and see men becoming more wimpified, I guess I would say, less manly in ways where they need to be standing up.
Stand up for right or wrong.
Right or wrong, yeah.
And it's just right or wrong. That's what it gets
Yeah.
down to.
And it's wrong to hit your wife.
Yeah.
It's wrong to hit your girlfriend. It's wrong to hit any woman. And we just sit by and let it happen,
And I don't know, obviously we can talk about it tonight, we're going to talk about it later on again, but for men to stop, for the 95% to stop the 5% should be a piece of cake.
It should be.
Should be a walk in the park. Everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but most people know the homes that domestic violence
Mm-hmm.
is taking place in. you have a neighbor, you have a friend who knows a friend. Most people, somebody knows.
Mm-hmm.
They really do. And yet nothing's done about it. And that's a tough question to get men to look at themselves. And I think we would like to put a challenge out to everybody today on the air, the audience out there. If you see somebody abusing their spouse or a woman, do something about it. Stand up and be the man that men are supposed to be in the community. And it doesn't mean to go in there head first and get yourself beat up.
Right.
I'm not saying be the macho man that's going to end up dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's reasons you have to sometimes be careful about it. But there is something you can do.
There is.
And I think we need to follow that a bit further.
Yeah. And I think another thought on it is the men that don't do nothing is they wouldn't want somebody coming in their home.
Right.
That's the man's castle. That's their domain. That's their sanctuary, if you would. And they would be upset if somebody came in their home, no matter what the situation. If another man comes in my house, I'm going to A, B, and C.
Right.
And that may be a lot of it. But I'm with you, it's time that we stood up as men. And I'll put the challenge out too. If you see it or hear it or know it's going on, at the very least, call the police.
Yep.
At the very least. And if it's happening in front of you, I'm not saying run in and jump on the guy or, like you said, get beat up or anything like that. But offer the woman a way out or something. Let me drive you, over here to the shelter or get you. Do you have a friend's house I can take you to? Stop the situation.
Right.
At least for that time. If she chooses to go back, that's up to her. But you may have to stop the situation again. But but then when you get her out of the situation, then that's when it's time for you to confront him. And not in a combative way. Like, look, man, that's not okay.
Right.
You're teaching her what I am too. And I'm not that. And I'm not gonna be labeled as that.
Right.
So knock it off.
It's funny. I was thinking back on the old West days, the old cowboy days, where communities were run by communities.
Yeah.
People got together either in a town hall, which sometimes was the bar, or the church. And they talked about community things that were going on and the rights and the wrongs and how to deal with them. And they would address them. And the men would go and address the men. The women would go and address the women. And if there was things inappropriate going on, the women would go and talk to that woman and say, hold on a minute. And the men would go talk to the men. That's no longer happens.
No.
And there's still nothing wrong with a group of men getting together and saying, Charlie out there has been doing this, and this is what he does, and he's done it several times. If you noticed, let's go and talk to him.
Right.
Now, whether he'll come and listen or not is another story. But at least the effort needs to be made. And he would then be aware that the community is aware of him. And the
Right.
community men are aware of him.
Right.
And that his behavior is totally inappropriate. And now more people know it than just one.
I think the other challenge I'd like to lay out is men with boys.
Oh, yeah.
Men, teach your sons how to be a man. You don't hit on a woman. You don't teach them that at an early age, because most of the time what they're going to learn, they've learned by 10 years old. And so at a young age, start them out. This is how we treat mom. Let them see you treating mom, like a woman, like she should be treated.
Right.
Let him see you treat sisters and cousins and aunts, and grandma and all that, like the women deserve to be treated, They deserve to be treated specially. They don't deserve to be hit on. So, men, teach your boys. Teach them young.
Right.
And teach them right. To be a man, to walk as a man. And let them know it's not acceptable. You will not accept it.
And a big part of that, too, is men with children, especially young boys, and with young women, too, because women see it as well.
Yep.
Young girls see it
Yep.
as well. for the men to show their young boys that they respect the woman's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And in the decision making of the family, the wife has the equal say.
Right.
And the decision is made by both of them. And sometimes it's really hard for guys
Right.
to say, okay, you know, we're going to go to the park today, or we're going to go to the zoo, or we're going to go watch a stock car race. And he might try and sell his point.
Right.
But the women also have an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And to respect that, and it's okay to say, you know what, last time we went something, we did it my way. Well, today we're going to do it your way.
Mm-hmm.
Show the boys that mom has a voice, that mom has a say, and it's important to be heard. And we
Right.
don't do that.
No.
No.
No, not at all. Our society has gotten so far out of whack, you know, with things that go on, and then we have the homes that there is no dad, and
Yeah, oh,
there's
yeah.
only mom, and then there's some homes that there's no mom, it's only dad, and that's not healthy for a child to grow up in either environment. You mentioned earlier that the Creator created man and then woman. Yet we're both distinctly different, but we're created to be together.
Yeah.
Because actually, once we come together, we are the full picture of what God is. You know, every characteristic with a man and a woman together is the same characteristic that God is. And the children need to see that.
Yep.
You know, that's why, you know, a lot of people say that's why God made Eve out of a man's rib, so he's by his side. You know, God said, let us make him a mate, a friend, a helper, a companion.
Right.
Not a slave, not a servant, not, you know, whatever you want to call it. And when he made her, he said it was good.
Yeah. And that's the thing we have to be continually talking to our clients about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the reason our program is as long as it is.
Yes.
Because as much as I hate to say it, men are thick.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes on an average of 26 weeks, 6 months, in a program before the guys start to get it.
Right.
When they really start to understand the concept of what we're talking about. Once that period is passed, now for some it's a little earlier, for some it's a little later, but as a rule it's 24 to 26 weeks. After that, for the rest of the program, which goes on for another 10 to 12 weeks, they love it. They ask questions, they're participating, they
Yep.
get involved because
Yep.
they've actually realized and learned something that's foreign to what they believed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say what they were taught, but for what they believed.
Right.
So we have to continue on this road, and we're going to continue to do that. And that's why we do public speaking and speak at other events and other clubs about the role of men,
Mm-hmm.
the role of men in society. And it's changed. And I'm hoping with years that it starts to come back, but it doesn't appear to.
Right.
It doesn't appear to be shifting back. And the statistics aren't saying that. It's not supporting that, my dream. My dream is to see it, and yours,
Yes.
is to see it start to shift where there's less domestic violence. As a matter of fact, it's increasing.
Right.
And
it
we're
is.
getting more and more clients
It
now,
is.
and I'm surprised how many we're getting. On a daily basis, we
Yes.
get one or two. You know, it's crazy. I guess it's okay for our business, but that's not what we're in business for.
No.
That's why we have a nonprofit one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've only got a minute here left, and we're going to come back here in part two and carry on this conversation and try and offer some more insight to what we do and what we talk about with our
Right.
clients on a regular basis, with a bunch of them, 5 or 10 a week, even more.
Yeah.
With that, I'm going to say goodbye on this show. Goodbye from Mike, and goodbye from Mike.
All right, goodbye. Thank you for having me.
And we'll be back here in a little while.